Arya, do not get comfortable in the wilderness. Do not get sidetracked in the wilderness, because there's things in the wilderness that are going to try to harm you and kill you. That is why God says, just go to where you need to go. Do not look to the left, do not look to the right. So let me show you. Exodus 16:3. It says, the Israelites said to them, if only we had died by the Lord's hand in Egypt. There we sat around pots of meat and ate all the food we wanted. But you have brought us into the desert to starve this entire assembly to death. Sometimes in the wilderness, maybe you're too blinded by what it looked like in the past. Maybe you're too blinded by how all the blessings you had in the past, and you don't get to see everything that God is doing within the wilderness, and you're gonna miss what God has for you in the promised land. And so when Moses and the Israelites are walking, they've been walking, and they're just trying to get to where they got to. But the thing is that their hearts were hardened, so they weren't able to trust the process. And that's why some of them lost their opportunity to get into the promised land, because their hearts were too hardened. They were too rebellious towards God. And when God sends you into the wilderness, it's not because he hates you or harms you, but it's because he wants to take you from one location to the next. And the thing is that I realize that sometimes we get a little bit too comfortable and looking back to the past, where it's like, oh, back then you had this, back then I had that, back then it was a little bit, back then I was at least able to see what it could have been, or what could have happened. The reality is, though, God doesn't want you to keep looking to the past. God doesn't want to keep looking at the things in the past. He says, forget the former things, right? For I'm making a new thing. And so let me give you this thing where it's like, oh, but what's so bad of like if God sends you, like, let's say you're in this process where God sends you from point A to point B, and he says, don't look, do not talk to anybody in the wilderness, do not look or associate yourself, do not get comfortable, do not look for this thing within the wilderness. If you feel a little lonely, do not hold on to this, do not hold on to only me. And the reason is this, because if you go to Luke 10, right? I mean, Luke 10, he's sending out the disciples, 72. He's telling them, go, right? He says, I'm sending you out like lambs among wolves. It says, do not take a purse or bag or sandal, and do not greet anyone on the road, right? Why should you not greet anyone on the road? It's because there are people waiting to attack you, wolves that are waiting to harm you in the wilderness. God doesn't say, oh, don't do this, don't do that, because he doesn't like you or hates you. It's because he wants to protect you from the things in the wilderness. God will continue to provide within the wilderness. You just have to be obedient in the season of that wilderness moment, whatever that may be for you. Continue to trust the Lord. The Lord will get you to point A to point B. You just got to continue to trust him in everything that you do. God bless you guys.